Hey everyone, a bit of a different one today. Normally, as the guy behind the camera and the editor sort of stuff, I don't tend to get as much time playing the game as other members will be. So today, a little bit of a different one. As I'm getting into playing the game again, and I'm finding a deck and I'm relearning, I thought, why not make a kind of come learn with me? So I picked up Radiant Typhoon, mainly from Genesys' point of view, but a lot of the views and like styles of play probably fit both at the moment because the deck's, kind of stunted until the new stuff comes out. So today's basically regarding a lot of my thoughts. I'll have like lots of timestamps down below so you can, tune into the bits that you want to hear. But yeah, no, I chose Runic Radiant specifically just because I thought in that format it could be really, really strong. I saw that a lot of the tops recently have been Runic Radiant or Radiant versions. So I'll kind of talk through some of the stuff that I ended up playing, some of the stuff I didn't end up playing, some of the choices that might be worth it, others that I think are just pure copium, alongside how I think it might shape up after the new link is released and some of the other cards. But ultimately, yeah, I thought the deck's just insanely strong. From my time practicing with it, initially it felt like everything died to draw. It felt like any player made, but then the more I played, the more I messed around with, the more I realized, oh, this deck is really strong. Like you can go just full combo in the draw phase, and honestly, it just plays through so much. Kind of chose this deck because, I mean, in Genesys it should be pointed, but it's got no points whatsoever. Well, apart from totem and stuff like that, but deck's really, really strong. So yeah, just kind of getting into this. Like the main reason I chose this version was, I was looking for a strong deck. When I was looking through all of the options, I felt like Vanquish was going to get murdered very quickly, and obviously it did. I was also looking at Punk personally, but I don't know. I felt like the deck really just depended on the hand traps. It was fun and all, but I don't know. But then there was also real like kind of TCG potential to play this. And then over the weekend at the UK Open, as we can see, a couple of people did really well with this, and this deck is starting to take off a wee bit. But and then I chose to play the Runic version just because I love Runic. So I used to play Runic back in the day. It used to be one of my main decks. So I also felt like the Runics add a lot of value to the deck. But I'll get into that in more detail. But yeah, from my experience playing the deck, I think Dornan book, I think I had about an 80% win percentage on this. So I think I was around, I got to rank 300, 400. Not saying it's impressive, right? It's more just so you can see that the evolution of the deck. I played up against all manner of different things. I feel like the deck has a decent matchup into like some like Drake-a-Tail because you can out most of the back row before you even start playing, and even cards like Malulu is all like main phase and Fimena's main phase, so I found a lot of the time you can get the big chicken out to shuffle back the Malulu, and then you could even get out the monster negate so that your opponent couldn't activate Fimena in hand, and you'd already stopped all of the back row. So like this had theoretically like a really good matchup into that. Obviously in Genesys compared to normal, it's different because in Genesys they've got nowhere near as many hand traps or like 5 manas and like stuff like that, just because it's all pointed. But yeah, I found the matchup to that was very good, and I think that was a big part of it. And then the deck it just had really, really good going second game, and then the board it can put up going first is absolutely phenomenal. It can put up so many negates and stuff like that. But yeah, I also, this deck was really fun, really interesting, and it's nice to see that MST can negate. So yeah, across my journey, there was a lot of things that I tried and decided not to play. Ultimately, this is what I settled on. So I kind of set a goal for myself. I wanted to get as high as possible on DB with the time I had. I probably could have tried to get higher if I had given more time, but yeah, that was like roughly where I got. I think I ended up with like, I don't know, 25 wins and about 5 or 6 losses. From like differing like kind of levels of opponents. But yeah, and then my thought process was I wanted to go to the UK Open, and my aim was to win 2 pods, because if I can win 2 pods in person play, then I can be like, cool, right, I kind of understand the deck, I've played online, I've played in person, and I kind of know how it feels now, and I can, yeah, actually kind of go through some of the thoughts I've had and decision trees and some of the interesting things that I found that were very, very cool. Well, when I went to the UK Open, unfortunately, it was not the most well run. They literally only did 1 pod the whole entire time I was there. Yeah, it was not the most well run event, I'll say personally. As someone who really just went for pods, please don't judge me. But yeah, they literally only got 1 pod in the whole day. That was all. And then by the time I went to sign up for my second one, they were like, nope, pods are over. So I couldn't quite get as much data as I wanted to. However, I did win that pod. And it was very interesting because it was playing against, there was a Runic, not Runic deck, there was an Interior deck, so obviously Beast was there, which this can play through quite well. And then also, well, you like, just because of the going second cards we have. And then also played up against Cyber Dragon K9, which was really fun, very tough matchup, but that was really fun. And then last one was some sort of crazy UBell build, which was very, very cool. Unfortunately, they bricked. So, but yeah, so we did what we wanted. We won the pod. So that was kind of like, wish I got two, but it is what it is. Hopefully, a more better, well ran event eventually in the future. We try more, but we'll see if this deck gets pointed. So, yeah, getting into the deck then. So, I think some of this is going to be non-surprising. 3 Edlum. It's just the monster search. I mean, it's bread and butter deck. Edlum search Swen. Swen gets you your quick plays. This gets you your monsters. It can get any monster, so it was pretty good. And then obviously, like, if your opponents have no spells or traps, you can summon it. And if you have an MST in your graveyard, that's also how you can special summon it. So, and then next, through Crozier. This is all pretty standard. I don't think anybody's going to debate any of these. It's really, really solid cards. Here's where it kind of gets to the decision window. So, Mikala. A few people have been playing more than one of this, or multiples, and they've used it as a starter. Personally, I thought I'd look into finding other starters, which I will get into in a couple of cards. But I thought relying on drawing this and one of your Radiant spells was just too risky. Because it's only if you activate a Runic, a Radiant quick spell or a MST, then you can summon. But if this is just a standard quick play, you won't get anything off it. So I didn't see the point in doubling down, because what if you draw a couple of these and then you've got no Radiant to go with it? So yeah, that's in contention a wee bit. But then the Big Whale, the Monster Negate, dude's just pretty good. It's pretty big defense. Most people play him 1. Now, the Big Chicken, Phonics. Personally, I thought Phonics was a one-of. I don't see it being a two-of. And the deck's got enough like kind of cards in rotation that you can play it as a one-of, and if it gets banished, well, it's not the end of the day. There's a lot of other stuff going on. You can always mill them out with Runic cards. So I just ended up playing the 1 chicken. And if I drew multiples, like if I was playing more like multiple of them and I drew 2, that's just game over. I lose. So I really think this is a one-off, to be honest. Now, I was messing around with the version where I play 2 more on the side for the mirror match, because then your opponent really had to play into getting shuffled back. But I ended up going for other cards instead. I just thought it was an interesting theory. I thought we might mess around with it, might be fun, but I ended up just sticking to the 1. Now, this is where it gets, a lot of people weren't playing this sort of stuff. So I'm playing 3 Noble Knight Shield Bearer. So the way this works is you can banish it from your hand and you can search 1 beast. So I think it's Wind Beast, isn't it? Yeah, 1 Wind Beast. So you search your Elven. So yeah, I just thought this is 3, 6, 9 1-card starters alongside Chan, which you'll see a little bit further down. Give them up. Chan, so that ends up being 3, 6, 9, 12 1-card starters. Not to mention, if you activate a quick play with Crozier, that ends up being 15. So my thought process was I really just wanted to make sure there was as many 1-card combo pieces as possible. Also, if you normal summon this and you got a light in the graveyard, you can banish it to draw a card. So it's kind of got some other cool effects. But the big one for me was, like, say, if I did an Edlum and then like hand trapped by, like, say, Punk, for example, I want to have like something else to be able to get another piece. Because even if you have Edlum and this, you can still special summon your Edlum, banish this, and you get another 3, and at least you end on like a totem. It's not fantastic, but it's something. But I thought this was really big. Not a lot of people playing this. Some people are, and I agree with this, playing Tenki in Standard, in Modern, because they can set it off droplets instead, which I think is very respectable. I think that's probably the best way of playing it. But obviously it does play into Droll. Getting hit by Droll in Genesys is not as bad as getting hit by Droll in Standard, but there's other ways to play in Standard, like you have the Beatsmith package. But yeah, this was kind of the way that I played it. This felt really consistent the whole time. And then you can also side out on these. It might be a bit more risky, but especially if you won game 1, you can just side out these. And if you brick, it is what it is. At least you're drawing a sick card. But yes, that was kind of the way, like, the package I decided to play for the monsters. When it comes to the Runic spells, Radiant spells, I keep saying Runic. You have the 3 chant, you have the 3 vision. Now, Chant is just your monster searcher, and then Vision is obviously your draw 2. I didn't want to play the Send because it just felt like a neg 1, really. It doesn't really achieve anything, especially if you're only playing one Mikala. Like, you might bump those up, but it just feels lackluster, personally. Like, once you've sent that first thing, it doesn't matter. And if you have a decent like opening hand anyway, theoretically you should be able to just get to full ball where you have Meghala bring out the whale in your turn, and then it can grab out Phonics on their turn. So theoretically, it shouldn't matter. A little bit also in contention, I played 2 MST. Now initially I played I tried 1 or even signed down to 1, and just for the combo where you can end up like being insulated on the nib, you need 2 because you need to be able to like sack 1 in your graveyard whilst have another one flip about. I feel like I'd be tempted to try 3, especially in standard play, just because it's, I don't know, being able to have 3 negates is pretty insane, personally. But then I could also be bricky. But going second, having an MST, just be able to pop something to start your plays, is probably pretty important. And then you have your Radiant Typhoon mandate as well, where it's kind of mandatory that you have to play it. The card's just busted. It's the bread and butter of the deck. Not much to say about these, really. Relatively standard. Now, my Runic package, this will be a lot of debate on this. So, 3-tip. I mean, you kind of have to play 3-tip. It's just the best one. I played 3 Freezing Curses. I played 3 Flashing Fire. And then just the 1 Destruction. So, well, kind of revealing some more. But basically, these were the kind of ones I want to play. I initially did play 3 Fountain. And then it was so bricky, I ended up going on to 2. I even thought about playing Metaverses and Demise of the Lands and side, but I think they're now pointed to like get to the field spells or stuff, or even side it so that you can get to this package. But I found a lot of the time going for Fountain or having the heavy Runic hands was either win more or you didn't want to search for it in that moment. Say, like, you'd much rather, say if you had like, I don't know, a couple of these, you'd much rather search for like a tip or a destruction to be able to out back row, especially Genesys is a lot back row at the moment. So I found that a lot of time it was just much better to play it that way, personally. So I ended up just playing these. Now, I ended up playing 1 Destruction because you already have 2 MST. I didn't see a point, and I thought a nice clean 10 kind of works. A lot of these all work during the draw phase as well, so you can really just start going in the draw phase. Like, tip just triggers Crozier, and then you just have so much adding, and then also, not to mention, like, tip replaces itself, so you can get your Crozier can add, like, say, a Phonics, and then you can activate the card you get the tip off of, which allows you to really play during the draw phase. That was something I was talking about earlier with, say, into a kind of like Drake-a-tail board. Say I have a tip and a Crozier. If I can find the Crozier. Say I activate tip. I can, say, get Destruction, for example. My Crozier will come out. My Crozier will probably grab me, say, an MST and I could grab this one, say, for example, and then I can drop a Destruction to pop a back row, which could then bring out my big whale, and then maybe I'll MST something else as well, and then this comes out, and now you've out 2 back rows. Your Crozier's, well, your Crozier's such your stuff. You've got your whale as well to stop a, say if this was into Drake-a-tail, you could pop the Sting to make sure that the MST stays live, and then you could get rid of the spell negate so that the only one left would just be the bounce, and then you've got check the 5 mana, and this just is like literally just tip Crozier, just outs the whole Drake-a-tail field. It's just absolutely insane, personally. So that was a big part of why I wanted to play it this way. And then also like Flashing Fire, Freezing Curses, these are just fantastic to be able to set going into the next turn, and then sometimes you just need to out a pesky monster or negate it, and I found that these just worked in combination the best. Yeah, and they just felt consistent, so that's kind of that. Now, my kind of like going second card, I picked 3 Super Volley and 3 Dropless. So initially I wasn't playing this card because I thought a lot of the decks that I found problematic were Eldritch and, say, Odeon, which they don't really care about having the field removed. But then Eldritch kind of just disappeared. Really was not seen play anymore. It's not really, well, it's seen play, but it's not fantastic, I find. Whereas some of the decks that are really, really popular, such as Punk, this really deals well with. And I think even into Onomat, you can, because they end on like a couple of lights. Yeah, this can still be good into them. I thought this is pretty good card, and then usable during the draw phase and usable during the draw phase. So they're just really, really big. I felt them really impactful, and even into Dracotail, being able to super poly into Sectarian Dragon, what are they going to do after that? Because they only have one Altharion, so if you super poly the Altharion away, like it's going to be really hard for them to kind of like get like out the Sectarian and then get into the Altharion again and like start to do stuff. So yeah, it's kind of massive as well. Being able to like Gulamel is kind of like the standalone boss. Being able to add the Gulamel was really handy. But yeah, this just came up so much. And then Droplet as well was just pretty phenomenal. A lot of the times I did end up having lots of excess cards, and I mean you're like MSTing, so why not just send the MST in and negate something? Or like you're doing like a Runic card, and yeah, it just comes in really, really pivotal. So yeah, these came up quite a lot. These were absolutely insane. I found that it drew them enough, and then it's kind of like 16 going second cards, so I thought the consistency was good. That's the main. I'll go to side. Sorry, extra first. So the way I thought about this was there's a couple obvious ones. You play Cicada King. This is the monster negate. Typically wouldn't go for this unless they're playing a deck that's very monster heavy. So it would only be game 2 that I would maybe side into this. Not side into this. Go into this if I was going first. And then Totem Bird, which I would go into basically. Keep that better. Go into all the time. Totem Bird was just be able to stop an extra spell. Say if there's any times where I wouldn't be able to end on the big whale, then I might go into the Cicada King. But traditionally, it would be the bird. Can't really argue with them. They're pretty standard. You can maybe play more of them, but I didn't have the points. I wanted to spend it on other things, and I thought this would be good enough. Now, some of them more like kind of useful stuff. I was racking my brains trying to find some useful cards. Like there's a Super Quant rank 3 that is Pops 1. But it's only back row, and then there was lots of other stuff. I was tempted to make a Dante because then a Dante can always go back, but ended up just going Breaksword would be good because I didn't realize as well, but you could target Crozier to destroy it, and you could target your opponent's card as long as your opponent doesn't have a spell trap. Crozier doesn't die, but because it has to like destroy them, and like well the Crozier's fine, so like it tries to destroy both of them, so the Crozier will stay alive and you'll pop for free, which is kind of awesome. But yeah, the card's just really good, and sometimes you just end up having a lot of chump stuff, especially by the time you get into the stage where you want to use this, the pop stuff, it's just pretty big. Now, Dragon Gate, so I kind of look at this as like Zeus Mark II, really. Basically, your Totem Bird detaches 2 straight away, so my thought process would be, or your Crozier also locks you, but only for the rest of the turn, so if you first action kind of drop this on top of your Totem Bird that's used all of its material, or your Cicada King if it's got none left, or even a Breaksword if you're going for kind of game. The way this works is basically you can rank it over anything like, I think it's rank 6 or lower. Rank 3 or lower. So basically you can just drop it on any of your cards, and basically the way it works is detaches 1, and each spell, or as many as you want, I think it is, but for as many spells, traps, and monsters, like you can drop everything by 1,000 for each. But mainly, to be honest, it can attack each monster once. So you can drop everything, it would end up going to 21, and even if a card was 3,000, which is about normally the highest, it will get dropped down to 2k, and you can just clear everything. So it doesn't clear the back row, but I mean, you're playing a deck that just blows up everything back row anyway, so this card just kind of outs the field. And then the last kind of like utility one was a Phantom Strike Bouncer. Basically, this is just a monster negate on the field. That's basically it. I was like, we have a spell negate, we have a monster negate for the 3s, we have removal, and we have kind of like removal as well, and like being able to crash or everything. And I just thought it might be nice to kind of double down on monster like negate. I thought about maybe getting a Lars, but to be honest, I think like it was 10, 20 points. So I ended up just setting on this. I did think about Wallow for some of those decks that I talked about, Eldritch and stuff like that. But to be honest, this deck has relatively good matchups into that anyway, because you have so much monster pops and back row pops. So like if they have Eldritch, you can just pop the Eldritch, or if they have the continuous spell for Odeon, you can just pop it. It's not problematic. So I just thought, yeah, I just focus on front row negate. Now, for the super poly targets, yeah, so it's literally 5 usable cards, realistic, when you think about it. And I thought I would go super poly because heck, it's the main one. I can double down on it. Now, most of these I did not use, but some of them, in theory, are very good. So you got Storm Venom, which is just any kind of 2 dark monsters on the field. A lot of the best kind of cards in the game are dark, so I don't know if there's too many really strong ones in Genesys at the moment, but somebody's bound to turn up with something stupid at some point. As we were talking about Sectarian before, Dracotail, it just does so much. A lot of Dragon decks bouncing around as well, so yeah, I think it's pretty good. You got Chorizo, it kind of, it's just very generic, isn't he? So a Fusion, Secret Ecstasy, or Link Monster, and a Spellcaster. I think in the Archmage, in theory, this is quite good. So that was kind of like one of the main ones I'd be looking at there. Now, Axion Kicker Oracle was very good. The thought process is it needs a Psychic and a Synchro, Ecstasy, or Link Monster. So, but it can also negate a summon, I believe it was. Yeah, when your opponent activates one of the following, when your opponent with special summon a monster, quick fate, you negate the summon. Yeah, so the biggest theory was this. I believe it's also good into Vanquish Soul, but the main one would be the Punk board, because this card, like say Super Poly alone, just outs the whole Punk board, because you would get rid of the XYZ with negate, you would get rid of one other random psychic monster they would have, and then lastly, they would just have a Sharakusai to try and synchro. So if that tries to summon anything, you just go Oracle to negate, and you've just outed the whole board, everything. Then you still have to play for the hand traps, but in theory, then this sticks around. It's still gonna negate the next summon and stuff. So that this was just a pretty good card. You have Mud Dragon, it's one of the generic ones, and then you have Guru, another one of the more generic kind of ones. No real thoughts on these, like they just come up the most. They're two of the better ones, and honestly, I think they were pretty phenomenal on the day. I went to Guru a million times, and then another part of the package I played was Ultimate Slayer. So Guru also doubled as Ultimate Slayer target as well. Entis, in its own way, it can be super poly because it's a Synchro and XYZ. Now, I feel like there's a lot of decks in theory that can just end on that board, so I felt like this was pretty big. Now, my other part of the theory for this was into Dracotail. You could play Ultimate Slayer, and you could get rid of the Gulamel, and then the Entis gets sent, and then you can pop a back row. So, theory, you could out the Sting, you could out the Horn, less likely, or you could out the Flame for the spell negate. And the thought process was, because even if they Flame negate the spell to stop Gulamel going back, you will always get the Entis pop then on something else. So no matter what, it's requiring 2 cards, because if they want to stop the Entis, because it gets sent for cost, and they hit it with Sting, well, they're still losing the Gulamel. So then they have a Flame and a Horn. So you're getting rid of, for 1 card, you're getting rid of so much interaction. Because Gulamel's going back, that's not going to get the pop anymore. So, yeah, and it allows you to pick which one you want to get rid of, because if you need MST, you can just out the Sting, but then at the same time, you can just pop the Sting with the MST anyway. So it gives you options, but normally it would be either a Sting or the Flame. I'd probably go Flame, so that then when you MST the Sting, it's not going to get stopped, and then you're all set up. And Horn really isn't problematic in this deck, to be honest. You don't need to play into it. So that was my theory on this, and also Ultimate Slayer is free, and there's just so many decks this plays into Ultimate Slayer, so yeah, that was the main theory behind Entis. And then like the last kind of generic ones is Valon, just pops back row, why not? And then we have what, Malong, because it's the synchro target, it's just the best one. Now Aggregate was also slightly interesting because Aggregate is also 2+ level 9 monsters, which means you could, in theory, overlay your 2 level 9s with this. Never came up. But then also it's interesting because it can send something from your extra deck as well. So you could, in theory, send any of these million targets to clear up something you want, or a Guru if you wanted to draw. And it's really annoying when you have your 2 9s underneath. So this straight away will detach them and then reattach something else. So you're going to have your 9s back. So as soon as you activate your MST, they're both coming back anyway. So this kind of was working with that as well. So there is a level 9 like overlay if needed. So I could come up in very strange situations. But yeah, no, I thought it was just interesting. But yeah, that was the extra. I'm going to the side. So on the slide, on the side, as we just discussed, Ultimate Slayer. This card is just really good. I've kind of justified it already talking over the Super Poly targets. Deep Fissure. So Deep Fissure was a little bit of a late add-in, but my theory was sometimes draw can cook you. So being able to just activate Deep Fissure will just turn off the draw. And then also with the heavy hand trap decks such as Punk, this also turns off more of the common hand traps like Effect Veiler and Ogre because they need to go to the graveyard. So you could turn off 9 of your opponent's hand traps, which is pretty big in itself, to be honest. You still have to play under DD Crow, but from practice we found that DD Crow wasn't the best going second into MST. However, if you've gone first, a DD Crow can really help because your opponent needs to be able to send MSTs to the graveyard to be able to start playing. So being able to sack one of the MSTs with the DD Crow was just really, really, really important, really big. It can be very, very meaningful. So we found that DD Crows were only ever really good going first into into the Radiant deck. So that's kind of like 12 hand traps that Punk would normally play that you wouldn't really be fussed by if you activate this. Not to mention the fact that you add loads of stuff and then you'll get 2 draws. So like if you get to add during your draw phase and then draw as well, there's a chance you can draw into this and then be able to first action main phase. Not to mention there is a lot of decks that die to this. Like Dragatail would really, really struggle, especially seeing as there's normally only 1 5 mana in each deck, I believe. So yeah, them being able to play into this is pretty hard once it's down. But yeah, so I found that pretty pivotal. And yeah, even with say decks that it wouldn't die to, I would still put in because my thought process was it's basically like call by in this situation. It turns off draw. That's all I needed to do. Even if their deck doesn't lose to this, I'm putting in because I need to play for draw, and draw's 5 points. Everybody has it. Slightly different in standard because people just go into the Fiendspip lines instead. So that's just, yeah, much better. Speaking of the devil, I also play draw just because there's a lot of decks that just die to draw in this format. Like Punk, and when we mentioned is very, very, very common. Yeah, just draw will just stop them from getting too much further than they already have. Onomat, I believe, also adds quite a lot. Yeah, those are the main real ones, really. Not much more than that. Now, I put hence these next ones, also stops Lunalight to a degree as well. Now, I was worried about Lunalight because I saw there was a bit of resurgence with Lunalight over the last kind of Genesys invitationals at the YCSs. So I wanted to pay a lot of respect to some of the tower decks. So I played 3 Kajus and 3 Lava Golems. Now, the only reason I'm playing the Thunder King here is because I didn't have a 3rd Radiant. The theory behind this was if you put a Dark on the field, most archetypes are going to have a Dark, so you can be able to super poly it easier. Also, the same kind of why we end up on light was chances of them having a light, being able to super poly both the lights off. So that was why. Lava Golem were going against Lunalight as well because you can get rid of both. These, you can only really get rid of 1. Now, I did, in the extra deck, want to play the Lunalight Perfume Dancer because, in theory, you could Ultimate Slayer, send the Perfume Dancer, which can then basically zeros all the attack of the monsters. And then if you Kaiju over 1, because the monster, like Lunalight will send, Liger Dancer will send to destroy all your opponent's special summon monsters. So if you just normal summon Edlem, your opponent cannot blow it up. So yes, it's a bit of a couple card combo, but you need as many outs as possible. There were cards that actually searched Lava Golem, I'm pretty sure, but I honestly didn't want to play into draw that hard as well yet. So I thought trying to go for like Ultimate Slayer to send the Perfume Dancer, you can then maybe Kaiju over 1, normal summon out to crash over, or even say if you out the back row, and you've Ultimate Slayered one of the Ligers off the field, if you Ultimate Slayered and send the Perfume Dancer and you've normal summoned, that will out 1, and then if you activate a quick play, say MST pop their back row and then they have no back row, but Crozier can't be destroyed either, so you can crash over both. So in theory, like the deck has built-in kind of kills over Laganata. So that was kind of like my theory on that. And then I also wanted to put Draw Not Button in to kind of like honor that as well. And then I kind of initially I was playing like Cosmics, and I think I was playing Trunade, Hey Trunade. But because I was worried, there's so many back row decks that were really hard to play in. And I ended up thinking, to be honest, I didn't need it. So, but we have so much inbuilt destruction in the back row, so there was no point. Even if your opponent manages to find mana on their turn and set like a Ketu and a Rahu for the next turn in Dracotale, you could just Big Chicken shuffle them away. So it wasn't problematic. Whereas I was worried about Towers decks because then you also have the Super Quan deck, which there's always someone playing it. I don't know how good it is personally, not really playing it too much, but you've got these ones that out that one. The lava golems came up quite often, just being able to tribute away a field was quite big. And then also like Pearly, you can add the Pearlies with the Runic deck because you can add the one to like pop them, and then also Super Poly without the Pearlies. So I want to put a lot of respect on them because there's nothing worse than having no out to a towers. So it's kind of like, yeah, that's the version I played, and I'll kind of talk over some of the choices I decided not to play in a little bit more detail. Okay, so these are some of the ones that I thought about playing. I kind of spoke about these before. The back row destruction, I really didn't think it was needed. The deck just plays for so much of that already. That's really just kind of unnecessary. So I decided not to play these for like that kind of reason. I do think this is an absolute class card in this format though. Just being able to force a lot of interactions and then add a lot of the back row. Dragtail's picking up in like favoritism though, which, you know, this will trade for flame, but if you're not playing a spell heavy deck, then why lose to a spell negation, if that makes sense? You're just going 1-for-1. Well, not even, because they get to draw. So theoretically, like, it's not incredible. If you're not playing like lots of spells and stuff and you're not trying to push stuff through. Cosmic Cyclone I found was really big to make sure that you added the card and the card stayed gone. So in theory, yes, that can be good into Dragtail for the grind game, and then it's good into Eldritch. So that was kind of like a big part of it. Now, the biggest copium card of all time, everybody is playing Pot of Greed. It is so win more. There's so many other better things to be playing, putting your points on. Like, you'd much rather have a Super Poly or Forbidden Droplets, just be able to completely outfield. Pot of Greed, I found, lost me more games that won me, because a lot of the time you would activate this, it's just win more. Or like you've already gone full combo, and then at the end you're just drawing 2 more, and there's just no need. Or say like oftentimes it would sit in my hand, I would get drawled, and then you just have a card that says draw 2 when it could just be a Super Poly, which is just so much more beneficial, so much more impactful. Like when you go popping off anyway, you're normally winning because it's really hard to field it out. So like this is just pure coping, and it's like 30 points. And just I did think about playing 2 of these and a Graceful Charity, just to be able to like siphon through Runics. And when I was playing the Fountain, as I said, like Fountain just didn't feel necessary, and then this ended up feeling a bit redundant as well. So it's not a quick play. And like the Forbidden Droplets and the Super Poly, they're 2 of the best quick plays you can physically play. So I found this was just absolutely copium. It's not needed. I know a lot of people playing it. I think it's just kind of like, oh my god, you can play Pot of Greed? Wow, yes, I want to play it, but you don't need to. It's not needed. Next one is Mirage of Nightmare. Right, now this card isn't pointed, so I think that's why a lot of people were siding it, or even playing it in the main, which I think is ludicrous, because it's also win more. It's the same as Pot of Greed. Like, if you don't pop off, and then you play this, it's just going to sit there and do nothing. It's just another dead card when you'd rather have like a bit more engine to be able to play. Like, if you only have Eldom and you have this, you special summon Eldom and they negate it, and all you have is set this, activate this, pass. It's just going to be really, really rough for you. Not to mention, say if you're not playing the Runic version, like what does this really add? Like your add, like say as in add to your end board. Like if you're playing the Runic version, which is just really bricky because now you're playing 3 Fountain or 2 Fountain in the deck. So yes, you're going to draw those Runic cards, but it's just adding a bit more level of brickiness. And not to mention, realistically, the Runic cards aren't as good because there's only 3 really usable ones. Like Slumber, yes and no, right? It kind of feels useless as well sometimes, unless it's in combination with correct stuff, because all it's doing is just banishing 3 off the top. Like the protection's not really doing crazy amounts. Like the only ones are Flash and Fire, Freezing Curses, and Destruction. So you're only going to be drawing potentially 3 usable ones. So it doesn't feel necessary. You're not also playing hand traps. Yes, it is nice, like MST sometimes you can just MST negate it, like pop this, you've drawn all your cards, you popped it, it's fantastic. But it just feels so win more. You've already got everything you need. You're probably, like, a Super Poly would just put the nail in the coffin, whereas this is just going to draw you multiple cards, like some of which could just be a Super Poly. Like, you want to draw into good cards, you might as well just replace this with a better card, personally. I can see why maybe in pure people would play it, but I'd much rather have Di-Fi, to be honest. I think the Di-Fi is just so much crazier to stop you from losing the draw. So that was kind of my thought process. Now, I did think about Fulton Cerberus. So the way this guy works is During the turn this card was normal summon, neither player can activate trap cards while this card's face up on the field. So my first thought was, this would be brilliant into Dracotail, it would be brilliant into Odeon, it would be brilliant into any of those just random trap decks you'd see around. But the only problem with that is, well, it can just first action nothing and bounce it back for Dracotail. So because it's not that big in that situation, it just lost a lot of value for me. In theory, though, this was a really cool card. It just feels like Denko Sekka. But unfortunately, it was just relatively outable, sadly. But yeah, no, it was in there for a little while, but then we decided not to use it. So some of the other things I was thinking about was a lot of people were playing XYZ Encore. I don't know, I just felt that yes, it's not pointed. I believe it's also quick play, but it's, I don't know, it only outs XYZs, whereas Super Poly is just so much more dynamic. Same with Forbidden Droplets, and there's already quite a lot of other towers out, so I felt like into say a Pearly, it wasn't necessarily needed. Other people were also some people played hand traps. I really didn't see the need to play hand traps when your deck works all around playing quick plays. So you want to see quick plays and you want to see the best quick plays. So there's no point going for hand traps, in my opinion, apart from ones that were highly impactful. So Droll was there. I was also thinking about Nibiru because sometimes it could struggle with big, heavy kind of combo fields. So I ended up just worrying about Droll more because I felt like there was a decent crossover with the likes of Lunalight. But I did think about Nib as well, but point-wise, it just made it a little bit too expensive. And lastly, I thought about Dark Ruler, but I ultimately thought that Dark Ruler, yes, it can negate my opponent's whole field, but again, I want to play during the draw phase, and I want to do as much as possible there just to be able to stop so much of my opponent's stuff and out the field and get your Crozio going and all these sort of things and not play into Droll. So I felt that cards that would turn off my opponent's say Super Poly and Dropless would just turn off my opponent's cards way earlier than Dark Ruler would, and I just felt like that was the most important thing with this deck, to be honest. Now, a couple of the other things were the Fiendspit package, people playing the Fiendspit package in the TCG kind of modern standard. I feel like this is definitely worth doing. Yes, I hate the concept that you can't play in the draw phase as much, but at the moment this feels just kind of necessary. You can sequence it so that you don't get locked in much later, and you're just playing the Nibiru so much easier, and then into the likes of Dracotail in standard, it will just stop so much because, I mean, Caesar is an incredible card. So I think it's really big. In the future, I think it's going to change that quite a bit, having the new Link. I feel like the Revive from Grave isn't necessarily going to be that important. Yes, people will play in ones, but to be honest, it just feels like another brick. I'd much rather get more tankies in, more one-card starters personally, and play the really good kind of quick plays like Super Poly, etc. I do think Food Loss needs to come in so you can draw more of these sort of cards. And yeah, then also there's a new card that can return all the monsters or all the spells. I do feel like this is also a little bit of copium, to be honest, just because it's not engine. And yes, it's kind of good, but at the same time, if you brick, you'd much rather have a Super Poly than you would that, personally, or a Food Loss so you can draw into more cards. Lastly, just before I forgot, there was one other card I forgot to mention. This came up just because of how little in my extra deck space I needed. I literally needed 2 cards. And if you wanted to, maybe a Super Poly target that also crossed over with a Slayer target. So I was thinking about Guardian Slicer because you could literally just send everything if you wanted to, balance everything. And your opponent can't negate this. So you could just deal with so many cards. Yeah, and I just thought it would be pretty good. Same with Dark Ruler. I was tempted to do Dark Ruler, wasn't necessary, but this was another one because I thought it would just out so many interactions and it was just free. I was just looking card advantage. This one card gets rid of so many other cards. So I just thought this was just a massive card just to out so many things. So that's kind of my thought process. That's kind of all my thoughts on the deck. Yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you think, what your thoughts are, if you disagree with any things that I've said. Thank you very much for listening and have a good rest of your day.